It's the story of a small idea that rang louder than anyone could have imagined. After a 17-year legal battle, Vodacom has finally reached an out-of-court settlement with Nkosana Makate, the former employee who created the now iconic Please Call Me service back in 2001. What began as a simple concept, letting prepaid users send a free callback message, became a communication lifeline across South Africa and beyond, generating billions for the telecoms giant. But for Makate, the fight was about more than just money. It was about recognition and the right of an innovator to own his idea. Vodacom once offered him 47 million rand. He refused. 17 years later, the company has now agreed to a confidential out-of-court settlement believed to be worth hundreds of millions. This case has become a David versus Goliath moment, a reminder that intellectual property is not just legal jargon, but the lifeblood of innovation. For startups, creatives, and young entrepreneurs, it proves that courage and persistence can eventually call justice home. And to discuss this remarkable story, we're joined via Teams by legal analyst Bophelo Seleke to unpack what this means for intellectual property and labor law in South Africa, and Tshepo Matseba, brand and reputation strategist, to explore how this case reshapes the image of corporate accountability and trust in the digital economy. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps, Bophelo, let's start with the legal journey. This case, I mean, as we know, stretched over 17 years. That's nearly 2 decades. From your perspective, what made it so complex and why did it have to take so long to reach finality?
Yeah, thank you and good afternoon. For me, perhaps the Makate matter is not just a legal story. It's a matter about power, fairness, and the moral economy of innovation in South Africa. So you're quite right. The matter goes all the way back to the year 2000, and it has since seen a number of court decisions that have punctuated this very moment where we are. You'd also realize, coming out of Vodacom's own SENS announcement, that the story has come full circle in November, where Makate and Vodacom have reached a settlement, bringing closure to one of the longest corporate innovation disputes in our democratic history. But I think to legally punctuate it, we can say that while a settlement is not necessarily an admission of wrongdoing, it does carry an implicit acknowledgement that the other side's claim had merit, and the other side being Makate.
Yeah.
So this is a reconciliation between law and morality, between what is legally defensible and what is ethically right. And ultimately, the Makate case reminds us that innovation thrives where fairness lives. And our legal system has reaffirmed that even large corporations, ideas have authors, and those authors deserve recognition, respect, and reward.
Absolutely. Ideas do have authors that deserve recognition. Tshepo, this is a story that captured the public imagination, not just as a legal battle. I mean, Bophelo says it's a matter about power as well, but it was also a test of corporate ethics. How has this case impacted Vodacom's reputation?
Yeah, so this specific case for us, those of us in reputation management and communication, is about public trust. The fact that a lot of times big corporates make decisions. Some of those decisions are unfavorable for the parties that are concerned, in this case, Mr. Makate. And they get away with it because they've got a big spudge, big pockets. So most of us cannot afford to take on a corporate for as long as Makate has done. And he's been resilient. He's been made a couple of different variations of so-called offers. But I think that he made decisions. So it's not about the amount, I think, anymore. But even though the amount in totality towards his discussion is important, but what matters here is that there's a big brand, a big corporate in South Africa, just as much as it happens globally, that doesn't happen to understand the significance of public empathy and understanding. And here you had a young man coming out of really humble beginnings and created a concept. All that needed to happen was a conversation to happen at that point in time. For this to have dragged this long just tells you a story. that in South Africa, corporates actually, and around the world, but importantly, we are in South Africa, so we're going to deal with South Africa. In South Africa, companies like Vodacom, I'm one of the customers of Vodacom, and to me, watching this over the years, where they came across as extremely arrogant and bullying, and that's a worrying concern for a brand that claims to be an African icon, a South African brand.
Yeah, yeah. Bophelo, you talk about the importance of ideas. Many have described this matter as a David versus Goliath story. Legally speaking, what message does this send to employees? I mean, Tsepo on the other end speaks of the sour taste it left in his mouth when it comes to, being a Vodacom user. But what message does it send to employees who innovate within large corporations? I mean, so much should have been known that isn't known.
Yeah. So the Constitutional Court judgment that was handed down in 2016 sort of gives us an overview of that question, an answer to that question. And I want to just focus on the three main reasons that came out of the Constitutional Court in 2016, in that it held at the time that Vodacom was contractually bound by the promise of its representative at the time, who was Makate's senior or line manager, and who made a promise to Makate to negotiate compensation for his idea. That was a direct recognition from the Constitutional Court that oral agreements, even within corporate hierarchies, can create legally enforceable rights if made in good faith and within apparent authority. The second thing is the Constitutional Court placed this specific matter within its constitutional framework of fairness. It wasn't just about contract law, it was about the values of accountability and integrity that flow from our Constitution. And in that, the court effectively said that corporate power must align with constitutional morality. And the last point is that the Constitutional Court reaffirmed the principle of good faith negotiation, in that it placed at the time an obligation on Vodacom to engage sincerely, not tokenistically, with the person whose idea had built them enormous value. So the takeaway here then can be that the Makate matter stands as a constitutional bridge between private contract and public ethics, which is a rare and powerful convergence in our law.
Yeah. Tsepo, social media has been buzzing with support for Makate and a lot of criticism weighing heavily on Vodacom. How much do you think the online settlement may have perhaps influenced the company's decision to finally, once and for all, settle?
Yeah, I doubt that the influence of social media had anything to do with the decisions. I think Vodacom has been increasingly under pressure. They knew that at some point in long-term reputation engagement and leadership of reputation and brand positioning, brand equity, they are on the wrong side and they're going to lose. Some people may have made those decisions elsewhere at their time, but this is a game of honesty and integrity and consistency. And Vodacom on their own website have a set of values. And if you look at their values, which all corporates in South Africa, one of them includes integrity. And integrity was not exercised in this case because they bullied him. They knew they would run him out of money at some point, and at some point he'll get exhausted. He has ambitions. He had some dreams, but he can't actually wait for this to happen when he's dead, when he's now 90 years and he's can no longer exercise his ambitions. So there's that pressure too. And I'm honestly, as a reputation specialist and a marketer, but a South African, a young entrepreneur, not so young anymore myself, but as an entrepreneur, I'm very disappointed with Vodacom because one would have expected this brand that I pay a heavy premium towards, and many other South Africans, Africans, that they would actually take a lead. So it's very disappointing. We understand that the story will come out when results come for us to understand how much actually was exchanged. Because at some point it has to be discussed because the non-disclosure agreement actually penalizes the person who's making a claim because you are telling them, well, even if I give you 10 rands when you were claiming 100 million, you must keep quiet because I gave you 10 rands. And that's a big problem with this agreement. I think Vodacom owes South Africa an open answer now
Yeah. There we go. Bophelo, just as we round up the discussion, I mean, Tshepo speaks about the importance of knowing how much exactly was exchanged. Vodacom's initial offer, we know, was 47 million rand, but the eventual settlement is believed to be far higher. I mean, estimated at around 500 million rand. We're yet to know. Does this outcome set a precedent for similar disputes on perhaps how they might be handled in future?
I think also to piggyback on the contribution by Tshepo, it's that for many SMMEs and young innovators, ideas are their currency, but without legal literacy and protection, that creativity often gets absorbed by larger corporate machines without compensation. And if I was to remind the viewers at home that the former Vodacom CEO, in his biography, Mr. Alan Craig Knott, or not Craig, had taken ownership of the idea to say it's in fact his idea after one morning looking over his balcony, looking at security guards trying to communicate. So it speaks also to the point that Tshepo was making, to say a full accountability perhaps from a corporate that has gained billions in business to take the country in its confidence to say perhaps we thought to settle out of court, and our settlement out of court was nothing but a show of perhaps good gesture or any other, driving force in as far as accountability and transparency and our constitutional framework is concerned.
Very well. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let me thank you for your time and your insight weighing into this remarkable story is legal analyst Bophelo Seleke, as well as Tshepo Matseba, who's a brand and reputation strategist, speaking there about the implications and really the impact of Nkosana Makate, the former employee at Vodacom, and that now iconic Please Call Me service dating back to 2001.